My deadbeat brother-in-law, Wang Du, gambled away 50 million. Yet he had the audacity to leave my contact info as his backup. By the time the shark rate interest ballooned to 100 million, the savage, bloodthirsty debt collectors from Kui Village finally swarmed and cornered me right at my front door. After exhausting every plea to get them to back off, my wife and mother-in-law finally crawled out of their rooms trembling. My wife's face was ghost white as she spat, "Let's divorce. I'd rather leave this house with absolutely nothing. You carry your own damn debts on your own back. Don't you dare think about dragging me down with you." No matter how many times I desperately tried to explain that it was her own brother who owed that fortune, she refused to believe a single word I said. My mother-in-law went further, viciously slapping me across the face. "You're trying to scam my daughter into paying your debts, yeah, Chiyo. And you even have the nerve to slander my precious son. Divorce, you two are getting a divorce right this instant. To be honest, I don't mind telling you the truth now. Roland is currently pregnant, and the baby belongs to your own best friend. So give up on your pathetic hopes and just sign the papers." "Wait, it's just 100 million. I actually have that kind of money." I originally intended to ask them if they needed me to step in and handle this emergency. How did this turn into a self-destructing divorce confession? Fine, if that's the way you want to play it, then you can settle that mountain of debt for the brat yourselves. My voice felt parched and hollow as I asked, "You're carrying Shu Xinian's child." "Exactly when did this happen?" Zhang Ruolan turned her head, sneering with pure disdain. "Qin Huai, so what if I am? What of it? Does it even concern a loser like you? Don't even bother thinking you can win me back." I refuse to stay with a deadbeat husband who only knows how to owe money and lacks the spine to face his own actions. I stood there frozen. I couldn't even force a single syllable out of my throat. Seeing me dazed, Zhang Fengjuan delivered a sharp kick to my leg. "Did you hear her? We're going to the Civil Affairs Bureau to finalize the divorce tomorrow." She finished and turned to Zhang Ruolan, whispering with a sly grin, "It's a blessing that every time you two had to get intimate with this pathetic loser, you made sure to take birth control. Otherwise, this piece of garbage would have used a child to blackmail you into paying off his debt. We were going to let him raise the kid as a decoy, but now it seems there's absolutely no need for that." I could hardly believe the words hitting my ears. "So, you were drugging yourself every single time. You actually took those pills behind my back. 3 years of marriage." And Zhang Ruolan's belly never showed the slightest bump. Zhang Fengjuan ridiculed me countless times before our friends and family, branding me a useless, sterile loser who couldn't reproduce. She even aggressively pressured me to undergo a hospital checkup. The results proved there wasn't a single thing wrong with me, and eventually the matter was just swept under the rug. It turns out she was secretly popping birth control every single time. She actually had the audacity to plan on making me the ultimate sucker to raise another man's brat. Zhang Ruolan let out a cold, sharp snort. "Did you really think your pathetic family treated me with any respect?" I was disgusted by that whole bride price fiasco from the start. Zhang Fengjuan spat on the floor. "Exactly, that measly bride price. It took ages of your incessant whining before you finally coughed it up. Looking at how stingy and broke you were, I didn't even want my daughter marrying a bottom feeder like you." Memories of our wedding 3 years ago flashed through my mind. We had initially agreed on a bride price of 999,000 yuan to symbolize good fortune and a blessed union. But on the day of the ceremony, Zhang Fengjuan forbade Zhang Ruolan from stepping out of the car, stubbornly demanding an extra million as a stepping out fee. I felt the demand was beyond outrageous back then. But Zhang Ruolan sat in the wedding car sobbing her eyes out, claiming her mother only had one daughter and life had been hard. I grit my teeth and paid the ransom. Later, when we finally reached our front door, Zhang Fengjuan declared the parental acknowledgement fee was mandatory and demanded yet another million. I was at my breaking point and ready to refuse. This was blatant, cold-blooded extortion. In the end, my father stepped in to make the final call, insisting that a wedding should be a joyous celebration and that we shouldn't let money ruin the harmony of the day. So we handed over the cash. Thank God my father saw right through their greedy nature. He chose to conceal the fact that our family was worth tens of billions. He even went as far as to host the wedding in our old modest house from before we struck it rich. They only stopped their relentless badgering after pocketing 3 million. Zhang Fengjuan didn't provide a single cent for Zhang Ruolan's dowry, claiming my family wasn't worthy of such a contribution. I found out much later that the 3 million we gave them was handed straight to that brat Zhang Haocheng, who squandered every last penny on his vices. My father specifically warned me at the time to keep our massive net worth a total secret, stating that only time truly reveals a person's heart. Looking back, my father was absolutely right. I took a sharp, stabilizing breath and whipped out my phone to dial Zhang Haocheng. "Fine, let's divorce. But I'm not touching a single cent of Haocheng's debt. I'm calling that brat right now to set the record straight." But despite my relentless attempts to reach him, Zhang Haocheng refused to pick up the phone. Zhang Ruolan violently swatted the device out of my hand, screeching, "You only have the balls to slander my brother because you know he's traveling abroad. and can't answer your pathetic calls. Zhang Fengjuan then kicked my phone across the room. You racked up those massive debts yourself, and now you're delusional enough to think we'll pay? If you don't shoulder the burden, who will? Right at that moment, the front door was slammed open with a deafening thud. Zhu Xinian charged inside, wearing a look of mock righteousness. Qin Hua, you bastard. You're a literal subhuman for owing 100 million. Zhang Roland immediately threw herself into his embrace. Xinian, he actually had the audacity to lie and claim my brother was the one who borrowed it. Zhu Xinian planted a possessive kiss on her forehead. Why don't you just move into my place? If those Kui village thugs show up again, I can't risk them traumatizing you or my unborn son. Seeing my expression of sheer horrified shock, Zhu Xinian let out a mocking sneer. Surprised, don't be. Where did you think Ruolan went every time you were on a business trip, Jijiao? She was in my arms the entire time. The number of nights she spent in my bed far exceeds the time she ever wasted in yours. After spitting one last insult at me, he grabbed Zhang Roland's hand, and the three of them walked out without a single backward glance. The betrayal wasn't just limited to Ruolan. It cut twice as deep because of Zhu Xinian. Xinian and I had been brothers since our university days. Years ago, when he was broke and unemployed, I handed him 100,000 yuan without a second thought, when he still couldn't land a decent gig. I pulled strings to get him into a prestigious firm, where he eventually climbed the ladder to an executive role, raking in a cool 5 million a year. I never bothered to mention that the company belonged to my father. I never imagined that this ungrateful backstabbing snake would end up jumping into bed with my wife. This was the ultimate betrayal of brotherhood. As I was lost in those bitter memories, I received an urgent call from my subordinate, CEO Qin Qi. You need to get back to the office immediately. I had no clue what was unfolding, but I rushed back to the company anyway, only to find Zhang Roland Shuxinian and Zhang Fengjuan, causing a chaotic scene right in my lobby. Zhang Roland was at the legal department barking orders. Starting today, I'm severing all ties. With this pathetic bankrupt company, I'm divesting. Zhu Xinian shoved the paperwork toward the clerk. That's right. Withdraw the shares, finalize the divorce. And that 100 million yuan debt won't have a thing to do with us. Zhang Fengjuan sprinted toward my VIP client shrieking. This CEO is a degenerate fraudster. Don't you dare do business with this man. Get out while you still can. Run. One by one, the clients stood up in shock, grabbing their belongings and heading for the exit. Zhang Fengjuan wasn't finished yet. She stormed into the office pool yelling at the staff. You all better lock up your valuables right now. Your scumbag boss owes 100 million to, and he'll pawn your belongings before skipping town. He won't even pay your salaries. The moment I stepped through the doors, my employees frantically scrambled to hide their personal items. The office erupted into hushed toxic whispers. So it's true, the boss owes 100 million. He's even screwing over his own wife. Do you think he'll really embezzle the funds and bolt? I never imagined he was such a low-life snake. Now that his family is exposing him, let's see how he tries to wiggle out of this. Even his best friend is turning him in for the greater good. It has to be the truth. We better start hunting for new jobs immediately. I charge into the center of the chaos. By what right are you spreading these baseless lies, Nikikak? Every cent of loss you've caused this company will be added to the lawsuit I'm filing against you. Zhu Xinian struck a pose of fake moral superiority, shielding Zhang Ruolan with his body. You owe exactly 100 million. That is an undeniable cold hard fact. The roar of the employees' gossip grew deafening. Everyone tearing my reputation to shreds. Suddenly my mother walked in. She asked in utter disbelief, how is this possible? Xin Huai, didn't you just gift me those expensive auction jewels 2 days ago? I just remembered. We were actually supposed to meet after work for a celebratory dinner tonight. Zhang Roland let out a mocking cackle. Auction jewels. Your loser son bought those with high interest loan shark money. Go ahead and enjoy them now, because you'll be weeping soon enough. It's a damn miracle that the child in my womb doesn't belong to your pathetic family. Otherwise, he'd be doomed along with you. What? My mother's face was a mask of pure shock. She grabbed Rulan as she tried to storm out. What did you just say? Zhang Roland violently shook off her hand with total disgust. Are you deaf as well as poor? I said this baby isn't a part of your bloodline. My mother already suffered from high blood pressure, and Rulan's shove sent her staggering backward. She clutched her chest and collapsed onto the floor. I lunged forward to catch my mother before she hit the ground. Mom, what's wrong? Zhang Roland spat on the floor. That broke old hag is just faking it. I bet she's putting on a show to extort a settlement from us. Let's get out of here. This place is bad luck, she barked, hurrying out with Zhang Fengjuan and Zhu Xinian in tow. My mother's face was deathly pale, her breath hitching until she couldn't speak, and she slowly drifted into unconsciousness. I didn't waste a single second. I scooped my mother up and sprinted toward the hospital. Inside the emergency room, the doctors performed a battery of tests on her. She has chronic hypertension, and the emotional shock caused her blood pressure to skyrocket. She must be hospitalized for immediate observation. I stepped out into the corridor and dialed my father, who was away on a business trip. Hello, Jin Huai. My father's deep voice echoed through the phone. I recounted the entire sordid betrayal to him. The line went deathly silent for several long seconds. Finally, my father spoke. I'm booking the first flight back. I'll make those vultures pay. Just look after your mother. Leave the rest of the carnage to me. My father paused, his tone turning icy. Shusinian and the Zhang family, I'll handle them personally. After hanging up the phone, I sat by the hospital bed and promptly revoked the authorization. On the black credit card Zhang Ruolan was carrying, that specific credit card was originally for Ruolan to handle the household groceries. I told her the monthly limit was a mere 10,000, and she only knew that I cleared the balance every month without ever realizing. The card's true credit limit was a staggering 100 million. My phone suddenly vibrated violently. It was a barrage of WeChat messages from Shusinian. First, he sent a series of intimate photos of himself and Ruolan, followed by several taunting voice notes. Brother, I'm truly sorry about your situation though, but your debt is just too astronomical for me to touch. I really can't help you out. However, I suggest you sell your organs to pay it off. Maybe being a gigolo will help you work on that equipment of yours. Roland says you're absolutely pathetic in bed, which is exactly why she came crawling to me. I let out a cold, sharp laugh. I treated you like royalty, didn't I? And this is how you choose to repay my kindness. Shusinian barked out a laugh. Back then, I actually thought you were some elite, wealthy heir, which is the only reason I bothered being your brother. If I'd known you were just a fraudster living on loan shark money, trying to play the big shot, you pathetic piece of trash, I wouldn't have given you the time of day. I didn't even bother replying to his venom. I simply blocked him on WeChat instantly. The following morning, I returned home to pack some essentials, so I could head back to the hospital to stay with my mother. The moment I swung the front door open, I saw Zhang Ruolan, Zhang Fengjuan, and Chu Xinian standing in my living room again. Ruolan lunged at me with a slap. You still have the nerve to show your face. Didn't we agree to meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau today? How dare you stand us up? Zhang Fengjuan added a vicious kick, just as I suspected. He's dragging his feet on the divorce, because he wants us to bail him out of that 100 million debt. I violently shoved them aside, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. My mother is in the hospital because of your brutality, and all you parasites care about is this divorce. Zhang Ruolan let out a derisive snort. Your mother is the one suffering, not mine. Why should I give a damn? Chu Xinian slammed a divorce settlement down in front of me. The agreement is already drafted and finalized. Just sign your name and get it over with. Roland snatched a pen and threw it at my chest. I've already consulted with a top-tier lawyer. As long as I leave this marriage with absolutely nothing, I'm legally shielded from every single cent of your debt. Sign it right now. Stop delaying my upcoming wedding with Xinian. The irony was almost laughable. I reached out and signed the agreement without hesitation. To escape the debt, she actually chose to walk away empty-handed, which means my family's tens of billions in assets will naturally never be touched by her greedy hands. Shusinian stepped forward to drag me toward the door. Let's go. To the Civil Affairs Bureau to finalize this divorce. Nothing in this world is more urgent than this. I violently shook him off. My mother has surgery today. I don't have time. Zhang Fengjuan kicked me. Cut the crap. Even if your mother is on her deathbed drawing her last breath, you are signing those divorce papers today. They physically dragged me out of the house, shoving and pulling me all the way to the bureau. The entire way, Zhang Fengjuan's mouth didn't stop moving, maliciously broadcasting the lie that I owed 100 million. Crowds of onlookers began to gather, whispering, I heard this guy is buried in loan shark debt. His wife is actually smart enough to dump him. I heard he even tried to frame his own brother-in-law for the money he borrowed. He's just trying to dodge his responsibilities. What a disgusting lowlife. No wonder his wife and mother-in-law are acting this way. If I were her, I'd kick him to the curb too. The official behind the desk adjusted his glasses and asked, excuse me, have all the terms in this divorce agreement been settled? Zhang Ruolan nodded fervently, shoving the documents across the desk. Everything is settled. I'm leaving with 0 assets. I had no objections and let the process conclude. Stepping out of the government office, a triumphant smile finally spread across Zhang Ruolan's face. I'm finally free from this nightmare. I love you, Shusinian, as soon as the mandatory cooling off period ends. We are getting married immediately. She threw herself into Shusinian's arms, kissing him passionately in public. Thank God I found you. I get a fresh start. Isol. Otherwise, this loser would have ruined my entire life. Zhang Fengjuan was even more insufferable, shoving me hard. Now get lost, you piece of trash. My daughter is carrying Xinian's heir now. From now on, she'll be living the high life, never having to look at your pathetic broke face again. I didn't even bother wasting my breath on them, and simply turned to walk away. Xu Xinian gave Zhang Ruolan's waist a possessive squeeze, before dialing his phone. Tianhai Grand Hotel, Book me a victory banquet for 7 p.m. tonight. I want your most elite top-tier menu. And reserve 2 bottles of 82 Lafite for me. He intentionally cranked up his volume, ensuring I heard every single word of his bragging. After hanging up the call, Xu Xinian said with a smug oily grin, "Hey Qinhuai, we're heading out for a massive celebration tonight. Care to join us?" I took a deep sharp breath, turned my head and barked a single word, "Rot." Zhang Rolan let out a mocking giggle. "Xinian, stop teasing this absolute moron. He's currently buried under 100 million yuan debt. How could he possibly dare to show his face in public? The debt collectors will probably find him any second, and then his corpse will be rotting in the gutter." Zhang Fengyuan spat on the ground. "He deserves it. That's what you call divine retribution." But right at that exact moment, a swarm of men suddenly charged toward us from behind. Leading them was a massive bald-headed brute, followed by nearly a dozen heavily tattooed thugs. The bald giant ripped off his outer shirt and roared, "Debts must be paid in full. That is the law of the jungle." Zhang Rolan and Xu Xinian nearly jumped out of their skins at the thunderous shout. Zhang Fengjuan, realizing these were the debt collectors, flashed the divorce papers like a shield, and shrieked, "He's already divorced my daughter. Torture him or kill him, do whatever you want. This has absolutely nothing to do with us anymore." The bald giant looked at her with total confusion, before signaling his lackeys to drag a captive forward. "Start pointing them out. Which of these people are your family?" Zhang Haocheng was dragged into view, his face a gruesome mosaic of black and blue bruises. He wailed like a slaughtered pig, "Mom's sis. Brother-in-law, for the love of God, save me. I owe these monsters 100 million yuan. If I don't pay up today, they're going to erase me." Everyone present froze in absolute horror. Zhang Roland stuttered in total shock. "Brother, what the hell are you talking about?" "The one who owes the cash is Qin Huai. It isn't you." Zhang Fengjuan lunged forward to untie Zhang Haocheng, pointing at me with pure venom. "You've definitely made a mistake. He's the one you should be dragging away. Seize him." Xu Xinian grabbed me by the collar. "Are you even a man? You frame Haocheng for your own reckless debts, and even send these thugs to kidnap him." The bystanders began to jeer and point at me. "Exactly. You've got the wrong guy. He's clearly the one drowning in debt. Otherwise, why would they be getting a divorce?" The bald brute delivered a heavy kick to Zhang Haocheng's ribs. "Who owes me the money? Do you think I'm an idiot who can't tell? Spit it out yourself." Zhang Haocheng started squealing like a stuck pig again. "Mom, sis, it was me. I'm the one who owes 100 million. Oh. I already made a deal with them. As long as they get the cash, they won't lay another finger on me. Brother-in-law coughed up 3 million in bride price for my debts before. He definitely has more stashed away. Make him help me quick, that." With a desperate struggle, he broke free and knelt at my feet. I pulled out the freshly signed divorce agreement and shook my head. "Your sister and I are officially over. I'm not your brother-in-law anymore." Zhang Haocheng froze in utter shock, staring at Zhang Ruolan. "What the hell are you doing? You finally found the ultimate gold mine, and you just let it go." Zhang Ruolan rushed over to pull him up. "Have you lost your mind, Koi? Why are you kneeling to this broke, pathetic loser? His own mother is rotting in a hospital bed waiting for fees. He's penniless." Zhang Fengjuan also tugged at her daughter, Ruolan. She whispered urgently, "Go talk to Xu Xinian right now. He's a top executive. He must have 100 million. Tell him you want 100 million as a new bride price." The moment Xu Xinian overheard their scheme, his face turned a sickly shade of pale. Stuttering and unable to form a coherent sentence, knowing him as well as I did, Xu Xinian was a compulsive, flashy big spender. Forget coming up with 100 million. He'd struggle to scrape together even 1 million. Zhang Fengjuan instantly panicked, glaring at Xu Xinian with wide, frantic eyes. "Don't tell me you can't cough up this 100 million. You bragged about having a net worth in the billions. Now that you've tricked my daughter into a divorce, you're trying to dodge the bill, aren't you?" I let out a sharp, frigid sneer. "That high-ranking executive position at his firm, though. I suspect he won't be sitting in that chair for much longer." Zhang Ruolan bristled with fake bravado. "Who do you think you are? You have no right to open your mouth about my Xinian." Desperate to distract Zhang Fengjuan from the money issue, Xu Xinian lunged forward, trying to strike me. "Ha! What kind of garbage are you spewing? My position is rock solid, and I'm actually slated for another promotion." The bald-headed brute delivered yet another bone-shattering kick to Zhang Haocheng. "I don't have time for this family melodrama. If the cash isn't here, we're dragging him away." Zhang Haocheng wailed in soul-crushing agony. "Xu Xinian, if you want to marry my sister, then cough up that 100 million as a bride price. Otherwise, I'll be the first one to veto this wedding." Zhang Fengjuan began to sob hysterically. "There's money, I swear. Just stop beating my precious son." "Roland, hurry, give them all the money you have." "Zhang." Roland frantically fished out the credit card I'd given her and shoved it toward the brute. "This is just my grocery card. But check it. See how much you can squeeze out of it. Just use it to shield my brother for now." One of the ball giant's lackeys, ran the card through a portable machine. Boss, this card actually has a 100 million yuan limit. However, the entire account has been locked down. The brute contemptuously hurled the card back at her. Don't take us for fools. The money might be in there, but it's useless if we can't actually swipe it. Zhang Fengjuan was completely shell-shocked. She grabbed Zhang Roland's arm. 100 million? Where the hell did you get a card like that? Zhang Roland stood there paralyzed. It's the card Qin Huai gave me. Yes. But didn't he say the monthly limit was only 10,000? How could there possibly be this much money on it? Zhang Roland stared at me in a daze, her eyes filled with a chaotic mix of confusion. How do you have this much? Zhang Fengjuan immediately pivoted to grab Xu Xinian. My dear son-in-law, he was your brother once, wasn't he? He must have used some dirty trick to embezzle your fortune. You were just hesitating a second ago. Were you actually trying to cover for this thief? We need to reclaim that money right this instant. The onlookers chimed in. Exactly. That has to be the case. Call the cops and have him locked up. Xu Xinian stared at that credit card with pure envy, then shot me a murderous, resentful glare, his mind clearly racing with some twisted plan. Zhang Fengjuan stormed over to me, shrieking and swinging her fists. You stole Xinian's wealth. Unlock that card this second. If anything happens to Hao Cheng, I'll make you pay with your life. I shoved her away with one hand. Every cent belongs to my family. None of you have the slightest right to it. The ball giant's patience finally snapped. He delivered a heavy blow to Zhang Haocheng's head. We've been going in circles for far too long. The bottom line is your family is broke. A massive lump immediately swelled on Haocheng's forehead. Wait, my mom has a house, use it as collateral for now. Zhang Fengjuan turned pale with horror. What are you saying? That's my only retirement home. The bald giant turned to look at me. Mr. Qin, since your divorce is finalized, you're free to head out. He pointed a menacing finger at Zhang Fengjuan, Zhang Roland, and Xu Xinian. As for the rest of you, the mother, the sister, and the boyfriend, you're all staying. Xu Xinian went into a full-blown panic. He stammered, I have absolutely no connection to these people. I'm just a random passerby. I don't even know who they are. Zhang Roland stood there shell-shocked. She shook Xu Xinian's arm frantically. What are you saying, Sol? Aren't we about to get married and have a family together? Xu Xinian responded with a vicious backhand to her face. Your brother is buried in debt, I'd get. And you still expect me to marry into this mess? Get. You're trying to ruin me. Zhang Fengjuan lunged forward, clutching onto Xu Xinian as they spiraled into a brawl. You miserable scumbag. You played with my daughter's heart and now you're ditching us. How dare you lay a finger on my child? But Zhang Fengjuan was no match for Xu Xinian's strength. Within seconds, she was being beaten into a howling mess. Just as I prepared to walk away, Zhang Roland suddenly collapsed to her knees before me. Qin Huai, I'm begging you, please save my brother. I know you must have a way to make this go away. She sobbed uncontrollably, tears streaming down her face. I was wrong. I truly deeply realized the gravity of my mistake now. The 30-day divorce cooling off period isn't over yet. I can still take it all back. We don't have to divorce. No shit. I looked down at her with a face of cold stone. Listen, lady, you committed infidelity during our marriage. Even if you try to back out now, I will sue for a forced divorce. Right at that moment, the roar of high-performance engines thundered down the street as a fleet of luxury vehicles swept into view. A line of identical jet black Maybachs, sporting consecutive elite license plate numbers. The motorcade came to a synchronized halt, and a dozen bodyguards in crisp black suits stepped out, forming two perfectly disciplined rows. They bowed in unison and bellowed toward me, Young Master Qin, the chairman has arrived to escort you home. The surrounding crowd was instantly paralyzed with shock. Good grief, look at that grand display, I recognize them. Those are the vehicles of the Shengtian Group. Napki. The Shengtian Group. You mean the multi-billion-dollar Titan Shengtian Group. Who on earth is this young Master Qin they're talking about? Could it really be Qin Huai? Zhang Fengjuan's eyes nearly popped out of her head, stuttering in total confusion. What young master? What chairman are they talking about? Yishko. Still kneeling on the pavement, Zhang Roland was catatonic, staring up at me with a hollow gaze. Your family actually has such a powerful background. You played the role of a pauper for all this time. The door of the flagship vehicle swung open, and my father stepped out onto the asphalt. He was dressed in a sharp, bespoke luxury suit, his eyes flashing with a razor-sharp intensity. My father turned his gaze toward Xu Xinian and spoke with icy precision. Xu Xinian, you are summarily terminated. The audit department has already uncovered your embezzlement, and we are filing criminal charges immediately. Xu Xinian looked at me, then shifted his trembling gaze to my father. His face turned deathly pale. CEO Qin, you're actually his father. My father gave a dismissive wave of his hand, and two burly bodyguards lunged forward, pinning Xu Xinian to the ground instantly. Xu Xinian thrashed against them, howling in denial. CEO Qin, I've realized my mistake. I'm sorry. Qin Huai, please say something to defend me. We're brothers, aren't we? I stared down at him with a gaze as cold as ice. We were once, but from this moment on, we're nothing. My father shifted his sharp eyes toward the bald brute. Regarding the massive debt Zhang Haocheng owes you, pursue your repayment by any means necessary. However, this is a public space, so keep the chaos to a minimum. The bald giant gave an oily smile. Rest assured, CEO Qin. We operate a legitimate business here, complete with IOU notes and legal contracts. Good. My father nodded. He turned to me, his voice softening. Your mother's surgery is ready. Let's head back to the hospital immediately. My father signaled a bodyguard to forcefully pry the kneeling Jiang Rulan away from me. As she was hauled up by her arms, she wailed hysterically, Husband! Hubby, please just listen to me for 1 second. It was Xu Xinian who seduced me into this. I still love only you. I followed my father toward the cars. Jiang Rulan desperately chased after us. Hubby, you can't just abandon me and Hao Cheng like this. Zhang Fengguan also came sprinting up. That's right. Qin Huai, we are all family here. Is there nothing we can discuss like adults? Just settle Hao Cheng's debt for now. Consider it a formal loan from you. We promise we'll pay you back later. I came to a dead halt, turning back to lock eyes with them. Jiang Ruolan, we are officially divorced. It's over. My voice was eerily calm as I added, and furthermore, that child growing inside your womb has absolutely zero connection to me. With those final words, I stepped into the luxury car. The elite motorcade slowly began to pull away. Glancing through the tinted window, I watched Jiang Ruolan collapse into a heap on the asphalt. Zhang Fengjuan was still fruitlessly chasing the fleet. Inside, my father handed me a bottle of water. Rest easy. I'll ensure they pay back every insult 10 times over. Dad, what exactly do you have planned? The proof of Xu Xinian's embezzlement is already safely in my hands. The amount he stole is astronomical, enough to rot in a cell for many years. As for the Zhang family, I've already coordinated the lawsuits against them. We're reclaiming everything those vultures stole from us. As for Zhang Haocheng's massive gambling debt, I'm going to personally fan the flames of his misery. I nodded, feeling a cold sense of justice. Upon returning to the hospital, we found that Mother's surgery was a complete success. Seeing us enter the room, she flashed a weak smile. I've handled everything regarding our son. Father took her hand gently. Just focus on resting. Leave every other detail to me. That very night, my phone buzzed with a barrage of messages from Jiang Ruolan. I scrolled through the desperate texts. Hubby. It was all Xu Xinian. He seduced and manipulated me. Deep down, my heart still belongs only to you. Please just find it in yourself to forgive me this once. Besides, you lied about being poor, so you're at fault too, right? If I had known your family was actually loaded, I never would have dreamt of doing those things. I'll go get an abortion right now, so we can have a fresh start together. But I want 100 million as a new bride price. Your family can easily afford that, can't they? Why aren't you replying? What's that supposed to mean? Don't push your luck, you're being way too dramatic. When have you ever seen me beg like this? I stared at the screen, feeling a wave of pure physical nausea. I didn't hesitate to block her number permanently. 3 days later, Mother was discharged in high spirits. I pulled up to the hospital entrance, ready to escort her back home. The moment I parked the car, Xu Xinian suddenly lunged from the shadows, grabbing my arm with a death grip. Qin Huai? He looked utterly haggard, covered in unkempt scruffy stubble. Qin Huai, we've been brothers for so many years. Can't you just forgive me one single time? Please give me a hand here. I furrowed my brow in absolute disgust. I violently shook off his hand. Get lost. Who said we were ever brothers? I was just blind enough to trust a snake like you. Xu Xinian collapsed onto his knees. I know I betrayed you, I really do. But now your father hasn't just fired me. He's suing me for every cent of that embezzlement. Qin Huai, I've truly learned my lesson. Tell your father to drop the charges, please. Spare me just this once, and I'll be your loyal dog for the rest of my life. Passers-by began to congregate, whispering as they watched the drama. Isn't that the disgraced executive from Shengtian Group? The one who got canned for having a scandalous affair. Yeah, that's the snake. Absolutely repulsive. How dare he beg for mercy from young Master Qin? He deserves this. If you do the devil's work, you pay the devil's price. I let out a bone-chilling sneer when you were sleeping with my wife. Did you ever stop to consider the consequences? Every bit of this misery is a harvest of your own making. Xu Xinian suddenly became hysterical. None of that was my fault. Zhang Ruolan was the one who seduced me. She told me you were a failure in bed. She claimed you couldn't satisfy her needs, so she came crawling to me first. I turned to leave, but he lunged forward, gripping me with a death grip. Qin Huai, you can't be this heartless to me. Xu Xinian broke down into ugly, desperate sobs. I have an elderly mother to support back home. If I rot in prison, what will happen to her? My voice was as sharp as a blade. I'll say this one last time. Your life has absolutely nothing to do with me. Let go. No, I won't let go. It's all that slut Jiang Roland's fault for tempting me into committing such a sin. Right then, a piercing shriek erupted from behind us. Justinian, what kind of lies are you spewing? Jiang Roland had appeared on the scene. She was draped in oversized baggy clothes, her complexion a ghostly sickly white, and her footsteps were fragile and unsteady. She charged forward and delivered a stinging slap to his face. You were the predator who seduced me. You were the one who forced me to take those pills. Well, I've aborted the child now. I'm going to make things right and start over with Qin Huai. If it weren't for a parasite like you, I'd be the prestigious young mistress of Shengtian Group right now, commanding a fortune of tens of billions. Well, she clutched her stomach, looking frail and hollow, clearly fresh from the recovery room of an abortion clinic. A wave of pure revulsion washed over me. I recoiled 2 steps. We are finished. I never said a single word about taking you back. Jiang Roland. She delivered another thunderous slap to Shusinian's face. It's all your fault that my husband and I have such a massive rift between us now, Shusinian growled in agony, retaliating with a vicious backhand to Jiang Roland's cheek. That was my flesh and blood. How dare you murder my unborn child? Jiang Roland lunged at him like a rabid animal, unleashing a flurry of frantic punches. If you wanted to marry me, you should have coughed up that 100 million. Since you are broke, I flushed that mistake away. The two immediately spiraled into a violent scuffle on the pavement. The crowd of spectators grew thicker by the second. Look at these two degenerates. The cheating dogs are finally tearing each other apart. Everyone come watch this circus. Holy crap, this woman is absolutely delusional. She's literally obsessed with money. A divorcee demanding 100 million bride price. Does she think she's made of solid gold? Justinian's eyes turned a bloodthirsty crimson as he locked his hands around Jiang Roland's throat. I'm already drowning in lawsuits because of you. Where the hell am I supposed to get 100 million? Don't you dare push me too far. It's your fault I lost my best friend and my future. If you hadn't seduced me in those black stockings that night, I never would have made the mistake of touching you. This display was even more pathetic than I imagined. I stepped back further and prepared to call the police. At this point, Jiang Roland was turning blue, gasping for air. As she struggled desperately against his grip, Zhang Fengjuan suddenly charged out from the crowd, brandishing a brick and smashing it against Shusinian's head. Let go. Are you trying to commit murder in broad daylight? It's because of a scumbag like you that I lost the perfect son-in-law. And now you have the gall to strike my daughter. She shrieked insults with every heavy blow she landed. My daughter is cutting ties with you forever. She's going back to remarry Qin Huai. Every eye in the crowd suddenly shifted toward me. I turned away coldly. Your drama has nothing to do with me. Dazed and bleeding, Justinian tried to reach for me, but Zhang Fengjuan held onto him with a death grip. He landed several heavy blows on Zhang Fengjuan's body. Seeing her mother being pummeled, Jiang Roland lunged in, sinking her teeth deep into Shusinian's forearm. Help a man is assaulting women in public. Someone call the police right now. The three of them were locked in a violent struggle, a scene of absolute unbridled chaos. The crowd of onlookers continued to swell, with several people already whipping out phones to dial 911. Amidst the frantic brawl, I watched as Shusinian viciously hammered several punches into Jiang Roland's abdomen. Jiang Roland let out a blood-curdling shriek, collapsing in agony. His eyes were a demonic bloodshot red, as if he had completely snapped and lost his mind. Without uttering a single word, he continued to rain down heavy, brutal blows. Roland. Zhang Fengjuan's scream pierced the air. Blood began to seep from beneath Jiang Roland's skirt, pooling faster and faster on the pavement. The bystanders stood frozen in utter shock. Ifo was in utter shock. Call an ambulance, hurry. There's blood everywhere. Someone's actually getting murdered. The authorities were already en route. Just then, my father stepped out from the hospital. Qin Huai, are you all right? Yep. I shook my head slowly. I'm fine. However, my father let out a long sigh of relief. As long as you're safe, that's all that matters. I don't give a damn about the others. He took command of the scene, ordering the bodyguards to pin Shusinian to the ground. The ambulance arrived with sirens blaring. Paramedics rushed to hoist Jiang Roland onto a stretcher, but she had already stopped breathing. After a desperate attempt at resuscitation, the medic shook his head. Her post-op wounds ruptured, and the massive hemorrhaging couldn't be stopped. She has no vital signs left. Zhang Fengjuan lunged forward like a maniac. Roland, wake up. The police finally swarmed the area, dragging a dazed Shusinian away in handcuffs. Shusinian stared blankly at his blood-stained hands. It wasn't me. I didn't kill her. She's the one who kept throwing herself at me. As Shusinian was hauled off into a cruiser, the crime scene was quickly cordoned off with yellow tape. I stood there at the hospital entrance, watching the ambulance drive away with Jiang Roland's corpse, feeling an inexplicable hollow weight in my chest. Zhang Fengjuan was a heap of misery on the ground, wailing in soul-crushing despair. My daughter, my poor daughter. My father walked over and gave my shoulder a firm grounding pat. Let's go. The authorities will handle the rest. I followed my father back into the hospital ward. My mother had already finished packing, ready to go home. What happened? It's so chaotic outside. My mother asked, but my father simply shook his head. It's nothing. Let's just go home. On the drive back, my father filled me in on the details. Xu Xinian had accidentally beaten Zhang Ruolan to death. There's no escaping justice for him this time. Embezzlement plus manslaughter means at least decades behind bars. I gave a slow nod, keeping my thoughts to myself. As for Zhang Haocheng, Gishams, my father paused for a moment. It turns out he owes far more than just 100 million. There are several other massive debts on top of it. The total is nearing an extra 20 million. He'll be paying for his sins for the rest of his life. Back at home, I could finally catch my breath. So much has spiraled out of control these past few days that I feel completely drained both mentally and physically. That night, I lay in bed and pulled out my phone. Zhang Ruolan's WeChat was still sitting there in my contacts, even though I had already blocked her into oblivion. I couldn't help but click on her social feed. Her last post from 3 days ago read, "A fresh start. Looking forward to a brighter future." The attached photo was a smiling selfie with Xu Xinian. The two of them looked sickeningly happy. I shut off my phone and finally closed my eyes. Early the next morning, a ringing phone jolted me awake. It was the police calling. They needed me to come in and give a formal statement. Once I arrived at the precinct, I provided a meticulous account of the entire incident. The officer informed me that Xu Xinian had been officially remanded in custody while awaiting his day in court, based on the mountain of evidence we have. He's facing charges of manslaughter and corporate embezzlement. If he's found guilty on all counts, he's looking at a minimum of 30 years, the officer noted grimly. I nodded in silence. As I stepped out of the police station, I received a text from an unsaved number. "Qin Huai, it's me, Zhang Haocheng. I know my sister is dead. Can you please help me? I've truly reached a dead end." I stared at the text and let out a frigid sneer. "Help you? When you use my name as a contact for your shady debts. Did you never stop to think this day would come?" I instantly blocked that number without a second thought. Over the next few days, I focused entirely on helping my mother recover at home. Her health improved significantly, and her spirits finally began to stabilize. My father made sure to return home every evening for dinner, spending quality time with her. One night after our meal, my father called me over. "There's news about Zhang Haocheng." "What happened?" "The debt collectors dragged him across the border to Myanmar. Since then, he's completely vanished off the grid. The odds of him surviving are slim to none." I remained silent for a moment before asking, "And Zhang Fengjuan?" "She's lost her mind," my father replied. "With her daughter dead and her son missing, she couldn't withstand the soul-crushing trauma. She suffered a complete mental collapse. Now she's scavenging for scraps in a junkyard outside the city, muttering nonsense to herself all day long." I let out a soft hum, my heart as cold and calm as a frozen lake. "People have seen her," he continued, rambling about how she has a perfect son and daughter, and how she was destined for a life of luxury in her old age. Father shook his head. "Pitiful people always have a hateful side." I nodded. "It's nothing more than karmic retribution." My father's assistant knocked and entered. "CEO Qin, Zhang Haocheng's fate has been confirmed. His body was discovered in a casino over in Myanmar." I turned around sharply. "How did he die?" "He was beaten to death because he couldn't pay his debts." The assistant paused for a second. "The corpse was only found the day before yesterday. It was already in a state of advanced decomposition." I gave a simple nod. "Understood." 1 month later, Xu Xinian's trial officially commenced. I appeared in court to provide my formal testimony. Xu Xinian looked like a walking corpse, haggard beyond recognition. His eyes were hollow and lifeless, with no trace left of the arrogant elitist he once was. The judge finally delivered the verdict. Xu Xinian was found guilty of both manslaughter and corporate embezzlement. With his crimes combined for sentencing, he was condemned to 30 years of imprisonment. The moment the sentence echoed through the court, Xu Xinian's entire body collapsed into the defendant's chair, stepping out of the courthouse. The sunlight was blindingly intense. I raised my hand to shield my eyes. My father walked up beside me and whispered, "It's over." "Yeah, it's finally over." 3 months later, I officially took the reins of my father's conglomerate, fully immersing myself in the world of high-stakes management. Father mentioned that his time was coming to an end, and it was time for the next generation to lead. That night, I stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office with a glass of red wine, gazing down at the sprawling city beneath me. If they hadn't wrongfully assumed that I was the one drowning in debt, I might still be living a lie, blinded by their deception. Fate played a cruel and twisted game with me. But in the end, I emerged from the wreckage unscathed. I let out a soft, triumphant chuckle and finished the rest of my wine in a single gulp.